Welcome back everybody to TTBurger Game Reviews, and you all know who I am, so let's get started. Those of you who saw part 2 know that I reviewed Tekken 2 and gave it a 9 out of 10 due to the opponent AI still being very cheap at times. Today I will be looking at my favorite game in the Tekken series, which also happens to be one of my all-time favorite video games. That game is Tekken 3, once again on the PlayStation in the arcade, done by Namco. Now let's get started here everybody with talking about Tekken 3's story. The story of Tekken 3 takes place 15 years after the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2, where Jun Kazama, who was pregnant with Kazuya's child, came to realize that his strength came from Devil and was unable to help him. Several days later, the final challenger of the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2, Heihachi Mishima, aka Kazuya's father, arrived to face him. In the end, Heihachi was the winner, and regained control of the Mishima Zaibatsu and threw Kazuya's body to a volcano and flew away on a helicopter. Sometime afterwards, the Devil approached Jun and was successful in defeating it. Soon after the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2, Jun moved to Yakushima and gave birth to a baby boy named Jin. Meanwhile, Heihachi Mishima has created an organization dedicated to the protection of the Mishima Zaibatsu called the Tekken Force, which is responsible for many events that led to world peace. However, at a dig site in Mexico, the Tekken Force was attacked by the mysterious Ogre, aka the God of Fighting, whom Heihachi plans to capture to live out his dream of taking over the world. Sometime later, reports came in of various martial art masters disappearing all over the world. Heihachi is convinced that this is caused by Ogre. Back in Yakushima, Jun starts to feel Ogre's presence approaching her and Jin. Knowing that she has become a target, Jun tells Jin about Ogre and tells him that if anything happens, go to Heihachi. Around Jin's 15th birthday, Ogre attacked the Kazama's house. Jin ignored what his mother told him and instead decided to fight Ogre, and in the process, Jin failed and was knocked unconscious. After Jin regained consciousness, he found that his mother is dead and his house is burned. Filled with anger and contempt, Jin goes to Heihachi and tells him what happened. Jin then begs Heihachi to train him to become a strong fighter to face Ogre. Heihachi then agrees to train him. 4 years later, Jin has become a strong fighter and has mastered Heihachi's fighting skills. On his 19th birthday, an announcement is made for the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3. Jin then prepares to fight Ogre in the tournament, unaware that he and the other challengers are being used as bait by Heihachi to capture Ogre for him. And I have to say that the story in Tekken 3 is much more improved over the first two games. In my opinion, it is the best story in the Tekken series, due to it being more detailed and darker in certain parts. Graphically, Tekken 2 looks so good that it almost feels like a PlayStation 2 game. The character models look a lot better and animate really well, much better than they did in the other two games. Gone are the blocky animations, and this time they animate very smoothly as if they are real people. The backgrounds do look better as well, but the only problem with the backgrounds is that multiple characters share the same background, just different music. But to me, it's not a huge issue at all. The cutscenes also look really well done here as well. And also for a game that looks this good, there are no frame rate issues at all. Sound-wise, Tekken 3 really shines here. The music is the best part. Unlike the soundtrack in Tekken 2 where half the songs were from the first game, this time they have all new songs exclusive to this game only. Like in the last two games, you have two soundtracks. You have the original arcade version, Then you have the remix soundtrack. Just like the other two games, I prefer the original arcade soundtrack more. And I do have to say that this time, it is definitely a lot better than the remix soundtrack. I also would like to point out that for the arcade soundtrack, almost every unlockable character has the same theme, but since this theme is so catchy, I have no problem with it at all. The character voices have also improved greatly and sound very realistic in my opinion. The gameplay in Tekken 3 is fantastic and greatly improved over the first two games. The controls here are much better. Gone are the clunky stiff controls from the first two games. This time they are very smooth and improved greatly, making it a lot easier to perform special moves and such. All the game modes for Tekken 2 are here, including 3 new modes that are introduced here in this game. You have Tekken Force mode, which is a side-scroller mode where you travel to different locations where you fight the Tekken Force. At the end of each level, you fight one of those characters as a stage boss. The bosses vary depending on which character you have selected. My thoughts on Tekken Force mode are, it's fun to play, and even though there are only 4 levels in it, it's still worth playing if you want to break from the arcade mode. You have Tekken Ball mode, where players fight each other using the ball. In this mode, you have 3 balls to choose from. You have Beach Ball, which is the beginner level, that can do up to 60% damage. You have Gumball, which is the expert level, that can do 80% damage. And finally you have Iron Ball, which is the Grandmaster level, that can do 100% damage. To unlock this mode, you must beat arcade mode with all non-unlockable characters. While I spent more time with Tekken Force mode than this, I still consider it enjoyable and a great idea of a mode to have in this game. And last but not least, you have theater mode, which is obvious. You can watch each character's ending and you can also listen to the music in the game. One interesting thing about this mode is that you can put your Tekken and Tekken 2 discs and you can listen to the music and watch the endings from those games as well. You have 10 selectable characters to choose from, including 13 unlockable characters, that also include 2 exclusive characters to the PlayStation version. You have Eddie Gordo, who is the son of a rich industrialist from Brazil. He was well liked in his hometown because he was a hard worker who treated everyone as his equals. One day when Eddie was 19 years old, he came home from school to find his father is shot and dying. Eddie learned that his father was working to destroy a drug cartel in Brazil, and his death occurred just when he had enough evidence to put the people behind the cartel, called the Kingpins, away for good. Before his father died, he told Eddie not to fight the Kingpins, but instead falsely admit himself to the crime and hide in prison so he can be safe from the Kingpins. One day while in prison during a riot, Eddie watched an old man with great fighting skills using a technique called capoeira, which is a Brazilian martial art that combines elements of dance, acrobatics, and music. For 8 years, Eddie practiced capoeira until he became a master at it. After being released from prison, Eddie learns of the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3 and the Mishima Financial Empire. Eddie enters the tournament believing he can persuade the Mishima Financial Empire into helping him persuade his long-awaited revenge against the Kingpin. You have Paul Phoenix, the American hand-to-hand fighter, who is admired by young kids worldwide. During the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2, Paul earned the right to fight Kazuya Mishima. Unfortunately, he was forced to forfeit the match due to a big car accident on the expressway that prevented him from getting to the match on time. He has yet to win a single King of Iron Fist tournament that helped him become a great fighter. Now at the age of 46, Paul claims he has no weak spots and says he will not let victory slip away this time. You have King 2, a Mexican wrestler who was raised in the first King's orphanage. When he turned 24 years old, the original King was attacked and killed by Ogre. Before King died, his wish to King 2 was to take over his orphanage. He then put on King's mask and began training under Armor King. 4 years later, King 2 is now a pro wrestler and enters the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3 to save the orphanage and get revenge on Ogre. You have Lei Wulong, a police officer from Hong Kong, who is now known as Super Cop, who is feared intentionally by some of the most powerful crime organizations. Lei has been investigating the mystery of martial arts disappearing from all over the world. During the investigations, Lei was visited by Heihachi Mishima, who asks Lei to join the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3. Lei then wonders why he's seeking him out for the tournament and believes there is a reason behind all this. You have Ling Xiaoyul, a 16-year-old Chinese student who attends Mishima High School in Japan. She also has a hobby of going to amusement parks and has dreams of opening up her own amusement park someday. Xiaoyul learns that the Mishima Financial Empire is rich and powerful and seeks out Heihachi Mishima to make her dream become a reality. Heihachi then promises her that he will build the amusement park for her only if she wins the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3. When you've played as Xiaoyul 50 times, you will unlock her school uniform. When you unlock it, you can press the triangle start button to use it. You have Hwarong, a Korean Taekwondo student who trains at Baekdo-san's dojo. Hwarong makes a lot of money through many dishonest gambling wages. He is also a part of a fraud team who picks fights with others for money. One day at the dojo, members of the Mishima group came to town and Hwarong convinced them to join his game and his match with Jin Kazama. However, Hwarong was able to manage a draw and made him really upset because of the first mistake in his perfect career. He then tells his teacher Beck about the bad news and vows to practice every day and hoping it will never happen again. Then to make matters worse, Beck is kidnapped by Ogre. Hwarong enters the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3 to save Beck, defeat Ogre, and to settle a score with Jin Kazama. You have Jin Kazama, who is the main protagonist of Tekken 3. He is also the son of Jun Kazama and Kazuya Mishima, and the grandson of Heihachi Mishima. After losing his home and mother to Ogre, Jin Kazama sees his chance to test his strength and to avenge his mother's death by defeating Ogre once and for all. Like for Xiaoyul, when you have played as Jin for 50 times, you'll unlock his school uniform, and to choose his costume, press the triangle button and start button at the character selection menu. You have Yoshimitsu, who is the leader of the Manji party. Yoshimitsu visited his friend Dr. Sebastian Boskanovich when he learned of many martial artists disappearing. When he went to visit Boskanovich, Yoshimitsu learned that he is suffering from a mysterious pathological organism. They believe the cause of the organism is caused from the cold sleep machine Boskanovich created to search for his eternal life after his daughter passed away. Yoshimitsu learns that Boskanovich needs Ogre's blood to stay alive and enters the tournament to help him as a return favor for him for saving his life. You have Nina Williams, the assassin from Ireland. In the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2, Nina was ordered to assassinate Kazuya Mishima, but due to a fight with her younger sister Anna, she was unable to complete her mission. Soon afterwards, Nina and Anna were captured by Kazuya's men and were used as test subjects for Boskanovich's cybergenic research and put into cold sleep. They were awakened 15 years later by Ogre's powers. Nina awoke with amnesia and is being controlled by Ogre. Nina is sent to the tournament with amnesia with the command to assassinate Jin Kazama. You have Forrest Law, who is Martial Law's 25-year-old son, who trains at his father's dojo, called Martial Dojo, to achieve his father's success and greatness. One day, Paul Phoenix arrived while Marshall was supervising a building of a new dojo. Paul then insisted that Forrest joins him in some training exercises. Forrest declined because he knew his father would disapprove of this, but Paul wouldn't take no for an answer. Marshall then found out that Paul dragged Forrest into the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3 and was furious. Forrest decides to compete in the tournament to prove his strength to his father and himself. One interesting note here is that Law is the only non-unlockable character to have a third costume. You can access this by pressing the triangle button and start button at the character selection screen. You also have the 13 unlockable characters, 2 of which are exclusive to the PlayStation version. Before I talk about the unlockable characters, the way you unlock them this time is different from the first 2 games. Instead of beating arcade mode with, we will say, Nina to unlock Anna, this time you beat the game with any character, and the character you unlock will depend on how many times you beat arcade mode. For the unlockable characters, you have Julia Chang, who is the adopted daughter of Michelle Chang from the first 2 games, who took her in when she was deserted in an ancient ruin of Native American settlement. Julia studies archaeology on Michelle's tribal lands. When Julia turned 18, stories of martial arts disappearing from all around the world reached Michelle's tribe. They knew Ogre was behind the disappearances and believed that Michelle's pendant had something to do with them. Michelle then left for Japan to find out why Heihachi Mishima wanted her pendant and to learn about the origin of Ogre's powers, but never returned. Julia then suspected that Heihachi is behind all of this and enters the tournament to find out what happened to Michelle and to confront him. Julia can be unlocked for beating arcade mode twice. You have Gunjack, who is a 90% restored version of Jack 2. After the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2, Jack 2 was destroyed by a satellite. Jane, the girl he was protecting, watched in horror and was haunted by the memories of that day for 19 years. After those 19 years had passed, Jane, who was now a physicist, was able to restore 90% of Jack 2's functionality. While Jane was working on restoring Jack 2, she discovered that most of his programming was created by the Mishima Heavy Industry, who are part of the Mishima Financial Empire. She also discovered a hidden program called Project Gunjack, which laid out the groundwork for a new weapon, a pivot gun. Jane then installed Project Gunjack and brought him to the Mishima Financial Empire in order to restore Gunjack to 100% and to solve the mystery of Project Gunjack. Gunjack can be unlocked with beating arcade mode 3 times. Also, when you play as Gunjack 10 times, you'll unlock Gunjack's tank top costume, which is very similar to Jack and Jack 2's costume. When you unlock it, you can press the triangle button and start button at the character selection screen. You have Mokujin, a training dummy that is made from a 2,000-year-old oak tree that has been kept in the museum for a long time. When Ogre awoke, it gained a self-identity and started acting on its own. When you play as Mokujin, it impersonates any of the characters in each round. Mokujin can be unlocked for beating arcade mode 4 times. You have Kuma 2 and Panda, which I will talk about separately. First, I will talk about Kuma 2. Kuma 2 is Heihachi's second pet bear and bodyguard after the first Kuma died of old age during his travels. One day while watching TV, Kuma 2 went crazy after seeing Paul Phoenix on the screen. Kuma 2 has trained ever since seeing Paul on TV and enters the tournament to defeat him. Kuma 2 doesn't think of anything of Ogre, his main focus is on Paul. Now I will talk about Panda. Panda is Ling Xiaoyu's pet bodyguard who looks out for her. They then move to the Mishima Industry College in Japan so Xiaoyu can participate in the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3. Panda was taught advanced bear fighting skills by Heihachi so that she can be Xiaoyu's bodyguard in the tournament. But Panda herself has another problem. Heihachi's pet bear and bodyguard, Kuma 2, has a huge crush on her and is always trying to keep her distance from him. Kuma 2 and Panda can be unlocked by beating arcade mode once. You have Brian Fury, an officer who is a part of the international police organization that was killed in a shootout in Hong Kong. Brian's body was then transferred to the laboratory of Dr. Abel, who was at the last step of completing his master project called the Cyborg Army. He is also rivals with Dr. Boskanovich because his findings were often preceded by him. While working on Brian and the Cyborg Army, he thought a perfect cyborg must have mechanics built by Boskanovich. Dr. Abel finishes working on Brian and reanimates him to go to Boskovich's lab and collect the data to work on his cyborg army. Brian seemingly enters the tournament to fight Yoshimitsu, who is good friends with Boskovich, and he can be unlocked by being arcade mode 6 times. You have Anna Williams, the younger sister of Nina Williams, who she hates with a passion and always fought with. Just like her older sister, she was put into cold sleep for 15 years after she requested it after learning Nina was a test subject. Anna didn't like that she would age while her sister would stay frozen in the process. Unlike Nina, who got amnesia after being awoken, Anna remembers everything. This saddened Anna because she wanted to continue the rivalry she had with her older sister. Anna then enters the tournament not to fight Nina, but to help her get her memory back and to not become an assassin. Anna can be unlocked by beating arcade mode 5 times. Also, after playing as Anna 25 times, you will unlock her Zebra costume. To select this costume, press the start or triangle button at the character selection menu. An interesting note here is that in the arcade version, in order to select Anna, you had to press the start button when you had Nina selected. To be honest though, being Anna in the arcade version was kinda disappointing because she was basically just a costume swap for Nina with Nina's voice and stuff, and Nina's moves. In the PlayStation version though, Anna is her own character with her own moves, voice, and combos and such. Moving on to the other characters, you have Tiger Jackson, who is basically a costume swap for Eddie Gordo. And there really isn't much to say about Tiger except for the fact that he's a disco dancer who dances at clubs, and that's basically it. Tiger can be unlocked with being arcade mode with 16 different characters. To select Tiger, press the start button or the triangle button at the character selection menu when you select Eddie. You have Heihachi Mishima, who we all know was the grandfather of Jin Kazama and the father of Kazuya Mishima. After winning the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2, Heihachi defeated Kazuya and regained control of the Mishima Zaibatsu and the King of Iron Fist Tournament. While gaining control of the Mishima Zaibatsu, Heihachi set the Tekken force to investigate a ruin in Mexico, who were later killed by Ogre. Heihachi then realized that he can capture Ogre and fulfill his dream to rule the world. Heihachi realizes that Ogre grows on strong souls and trains Jin to become a strong fighter so he can use him as bait to capture Ogre. Heihachi can be unlocked with being arcade mode 7 times. You have Ogre, who is also known as the God of Fighting. Native Americans learned that Ogre was a war weapon from outer space that was left on Earth in ancient times. It understands entire structures of living things and wanders the Earth to search for souls by absorbing them when he finds them. Ogre can be unlocked with being arcade mode 8 times. You have True Ogre, who is Ogre's true form and the final boss of Tekken 3. There isn't much else to say about Ogre that I haven't already said. True Ogre can be unlocked with being arcade mode 9 times. You also have the 2 unlockable characters that are exclusive to the PlayStation version. However, they aren't that great, and I will explain why. You have Dr. Sebastian Boskovich, who is known for creating the cold sleep process that was used on Nina and Anna. He is also good friends with Yoshimitsu ever since they saved each other's lives years ago. Dr. Boskovich can be unlocked after clearing Tekken Force mode 4 times. On the 4th time, a 5th stage will appear in it, and you will fight Dr. Boskovich, and when you defeat him, you will unlock him. The problem with Dr. Boskovich is that he is so hard to control because he has a tough time standing up. Every time you use him, he falls on his back and has a tough time getting up, and you must resort to using a bunch of kick attacks, and some of them aren't very powerful. However, he is still playable, unlike the second exclusive character, Gon, which I'll talk about right now. Gon is a little orange dinosaur that is the star of the Japanese manga of the same name. The problem with Gon is that he is so small and so weak that you'll want to quit to the title screen after only playing 1 or 2 stages. I mean, try using him in Tekken Force mode. You will lose every time because his attacks are so weak, you will end up running out of time. To unlock Gon, you need to have unlocked Tekken Ball mode, where your first match will be against Gon, and once you beat him, you will unlock him. Now, there really isn't much else to say about Tekken 3 here. It's a huge improvement over the first 2 games, and while the exclusive characters aren't so great, it doesn't affect the gameplay at all. Now for my final rating. Tekken 3 is a fighting game that is definitely worth checking out, and when it comes to the original 3 Tekken games, this is the one I recommend the most. I give Tekken 3 a perfect 10 out of 10. Stay tuned for part 4 where I will look at the very first Tekken game released on the PlayStation 2 and insert it as one of its launch titles. That game is Tekken Tag Tournament. This is Tony aka TTBurger 88. Peace out and see you all in part 4.